we talk a lot about gender, and we talk a lot about gender bias and all this stuff. But so I think for me, the topic is really about how do we change the leadership style. It's not just only about gender, it's about which type of leaders do we want now in our society. And I think today more than ever, when you hear some people with a lot of money saying that they think we should bring back masculine energy at the head of companies, and I think what I mean by that is not necessarily something we really want. It's really more than ever, we need to discuss about what is true leadership and what is the type of inclusive leadership we want. And it's not only about gender, it's about men, women who promote another way of being a leaders, who promote, I hear a lot young people talking about vulnerability. They want leaders to be vulnerable. And what they mean by that is they want leaders who are not afraid to admit that they can be wrong sometimes, who are not afraid to call on their team members and say, maybe your idea is better than mine. Let's all get together and discuss that. And it doesn't mean at the end, of course, as a leader, your role is to give the vision and give the direction of the company, obviously, but you can do it in a very consensual way where you get everyone involved, or you can do it in a very forceful way. And I think if you are on the call today, I do hope that you are more the type who think that getting everyone together and go in the same direction maybe brings better result in the longer term. But then we were also talking about the relationship between men and women, not just at work, but also at home, and how maybe there's a lot of bias, that we all have a lot of stereotypes, and how do we fight those stereotypes? And maybe it's time for a new type of men to raise and lead the way of those non-stereotype. And then, so we thought it would be great to have a discussion, and that's why it's a bit of our original discussion, because our panelists are actually two couples. So it's not very often when you do a professional work discussion with couples. So we're going to have two couples discussing here, and I'm going to give you their bio now quickly, because I really want them to introduce themselves and tell us all about them and all about how they manage not just their private life, but the work related, the work, their career, their development, and of course the private life has a huge part to it. So I'm not going to start introducing the women, because I don't see why we should always introduce women before men. I'm going to put them in the order of my list. I will start with Gwen. So Gwen and Anne, we've met each other about 10 years ago in China, and well, they will tell you their life better than me, so I'm not going to say anything, but I will start with Gwen. So Gwen has 20 years of management, consultancy, and entrepreneurship in business strategy, operation and development, business intelligence and reporting, planning and change management, encompassing various industries and cooperating with many functions. Gwen graduated from the School of Mining and Engineering in France with a Master in Finance and Economics and an MBA. Gwen, can you wave so we are sure everyone knows who you are? Here he is. And now Gwen's wife is Anne. Anne, you are here. And Anne, as a global business leader, she's pushed the boundaries with some of the world's biggest brands, Johnson & Johnson, Vision AccuView, driving growth, market expansion, and turnaround. Today, as founder and CEO of NBS Factory, she uses AI to bridge the gap between ESG action and stakeholder perception, turning accountability into advantage. Anne has graduated from NC Chemical Engineering. She's done an MBA at INSEAD, sorry, and a Master in Science degree, Petroleum and Economic Management. So that's our first couple, both French. And our second couple, we are going this time to Spanish people, and I will start with Jordi. Jordi, I don't see you on my screen, so if you can wave as well. So Jordi Brossa is an experienced executive specializing in general management, operations, leadership, and corporate development, Currently CEO of Pure Ever Industry, he oversees 9 global sites across Europe and the USA, driving operational excellence, cost efficiency, and strategic growth. With a background in industrial engineering and an MBA from IESE, Jordi has held key leadership roles at Genealogia, Interlake Mechalux, Axco Nobel, and Crofarer Bamesa. Well, I won't get a degree in reading, clearly. I better continue what I do as a job. His expertise spans supply chain optimization, P&L control, business transformation. Passionate about efficiency and innovation, he thrives on building high-performance teams and unlocking new business opportunities. And my fourth guest is Laia, and I'm sure by now you've guessed that Laia is Jordi's wife. Laia Bertrand-Rabessa is an experienced executive expert in corporate real estate, procurement, and business administration. As head of corporate real estate and workplace at ISS Spain, she leads strategic initiative in facility management, workplace optimization, and real estate operations. With a background in industrial engineering from UPC, she has held key leadership roles at Celsa Groups, ArcelorMittal, and Alstom Transport, managing global purchasing and supply chain operations. Laia is recognized for her strategic vision, problem-solving skills, and innovative mindset. And Laia and Jordi have 2 daughters, Bianca 17, Eugenia 11, and Anne and Gwen have 1 daughter, Charlotte, who is 13 by now. Yes, am I right? Okay, great.
13.
13. The sweet 13s. So, like I said, today it's really what we're going to address with those 4 exceptional speakers is how do we reinvent the couples, really? How do we reinvent our relationship with work? And maybe I will start in the other order. Jordi, would you like to tell us a little bit how you have organized your life with Laia? So we'll hear from Jordi first and then from Laia. Like that, we have both angles. Maybe one will say, I'm super happy without ghosts, and the other one will say, but we'll see.
Okay.
Hopefully not. And how you are bringing basically how your couple is breaking the gender biases and defying the social norms. So Jordi, I give you the floor.
Let's do it. Okay, so hello everybody from Barcelona. Morning to everybody. First of all, thank you for the GlobalWo.MenHub for inviting us. At the beginning, we didn't really know why you were inviting us because we consider ourselves a real normal couple. So we met in 1995, 30 years ago now. Well, we met in the university. We are both engineers, as Magali introduced us. And one important aspect of our career path that we will explain now is I think it's important that we started together. So we ended the studies at the same time. We looked for the first job at the same time. Laia got her first assignment. I got my first employment also. And from here, our careers move. Okay. So important aspect that defines us in this normality, what we call normality, is that we try to take decisions as a couple. So we don't take decisions by our own. So obviously there are day-to-day decisions, but big things to be decided in our family, we take those decisions together. And this is important. This is what we call normality. But when preparing this webinar, we discovered, Laia and myself, that it is not that normal sometimes in these times, right? So we've prepared a little bit, Laia and myself, to explain in 10 minutes our 30 years. So we will do that, and we will go to 3 or 4 important decisions that marked our lives, and we will explain you the whys, the reasons why we took the one decision or another. But that's a little bit the introduction I wanted to start with. So Laia, you started as we planned, and I will cut you.
Okay.
And yeah.
Let's do it. Hi, everybody. First of all, as Jordi was saying, thank you very much for the invitation. And yeah, how we start our life together. So as Jordi was saying, we met at university. we finished our studies, and then Jordi started to work at Accenture, and I started to work at Alstom. In fact, 6 months before our wedding, Jordi was offered to work in Paris. He was offered a position in Paris, and that was our first family decision before being a family, because it was before getting married. And at that time we say, okay, what should we do? Should we accept it, or shouldn't we? And we said, okay, let's try it. We were very young. And I said, as I was working at Alstom, I thought that an expatriation to Paris would be very easy. But at that time, it was not, because it was in year 2003, where Alstom was in a very bad financial situation. So all the expatriations and mutations were stopped. So then Jordi moved to Paris, and during that time, I sent thousands of CVs. At that time, emails were, well, we worked by email, but I was also sending CVs by post mail. And after sending thousands of them, I finally got an opportunity at Arcelor. Before being ArcelorMittal. Arcelor, it was the merge of Arbeid, Usinor, and Aceralia. I was working at a corporate purchasing department. So at Arcelor, they were looking for people for that department. So 2 days before our wedding, instead of being at the hairdresser or for the makeup, I was at Brussels airport doing my final job interview, and I signed the contract. So we got married and we moved to Paris. Then we spent 4 years, fantastic years there. And one day I had a phone call from a headhunter in Barcelona, where he was proposing me a job in a steel manufacturer, but in Spain. It was at that time, and I started the recruitment process. And at that time, we discovered that we were pregnant. And so there we took our second family decision, because the decision was, should we say it to the headhunter that I was pregnant? Or shouldn't I say it and I arrive to the new company with a baby in my belly? So our decision was to say it to the headhunter. And if everything was okay, we could go back to our dear Barcelona with our family. And it was like that. The headhunter said it to the company. The company accepted the situation. They were very happy, and they said, Laia, if we are recruiting a woman, we know that if it's not today, in some days or in some months or in some years, you can be a mother, so no problem. So, Jordi, maybe it's your turn to continue.
Well,
right?
yes, in that decision of coming back, obviously it was a surprise, a very nice, happy surprise. The fact of getting the baby, but the decision of coming back implied from my side to stop working in my company in Paris. So that was part of the whole decision also. Okay, so that was year 2007. Our eldest is born, Blanca, and after 2 weeks, something happened. A doctor discovered a brain tumor in Laia's head. Okay, that was like a shock for us. Everything seemed to go well. We had the baby. Everything was perfect, and suddenly a shock comes from the health side. No. Hopefully, as you can see, Laia, she's very beautiful and nice, and she's totally okay now. But that was in 2007, after 2 weeks of Blanca being born. At the same time, I was starting my MBA in IES Business School in Barcelona. So you can imagine that our life was a little bit bumpy at those times. So new job for her, me looking for a job that I got quite soon. That was before the crisis of Lehman Brothers, 2008, 2009, etc. And but we got the baby. Laia was kind of handicapped somehow. She was not that good like now, and me starting the MBA. It was a decision also to leave the MBA aside, yes or no, and I decided this time to take it because I said I will find the energy.
It was not a couple decision.
No, that was not. I will find the energy from everywhere, right? But I did my MBA, etc. After the MBA, that's in 2009. I will make it very short, Magali, don't worry. I was traveling a lot. I was working for AkzoNobel at a corporate level, so I was flying all the time. I was 1 week in Shanghai. The week after, I was in Detroit, the US. It was five continents and flying all the time. In the middle, our second baby is born. That's in 2013. Okay, Eugenia. And Laia at that time was flying a lot, totally recovered from the tumor. Both of us flying, the two kids, etc. And we were thinking that maybe it was the moment to slow down a bit because that was starting to affect our family. As a family, we were starting to be somehow affected, and that was not what we wanted for our daughters. So. I decided to slow down. Laia was not traveling that much. You were traveling, but not that much as I was. And I started working for a new company. Okay. At the same moment of the change, as it happened to Laia, I got a health issue. I got discovered a thyroid cancer just when changing the companies. The new company, I also explained I have an issue. I have this. They obviously I say obviously because for me it was obvious, but it's not that obvious, right? The company said, "Hey, recover, come back in 3 months. We wait for you." Very nice, extremely nice. Okay, so I changed the company, and after some years there, this same company proposed me to move to Chicago, to the US, as general manager for their subsidiary. So again, family decision. What do we do? Laia's career was extremely good. She was very well considered in her role. I got this opportunity. So how do we handle this? And your company, Laia, you didn't have any operations in the US. So moving there would mean stop for her somehow and start again. Okay, so we took that decision, and you, Laia, in this case, you stopped again. It was now you that stopped working, and after that, to make it short, it was a 3-year expatriation in the Midwest in Chicago. Everything was fine. We came back in July 18 when the expatriation was over. Then you know the story. COVID arrived a little bit later, etc., etc. Life for all of us changed a bit, but we are both working. When we came back, you started working for the company you are now.
Speaker.
I'm sorry.
I'm so
Sorry. And we both found the new jobs when coming back to Barcelona, and now we are very well established in Barcelona. We are always traveling a bit, but our kids are now 17 and 11, turning 12 next week. And both fathers, my father and Laia's father, passed some 2-3 years ago. We have both moms now, which are wives, so widows, sorry. So we don't seek, or we don't think that this is the moment to move again with the age of the daughters and with the moms around needing help. That's briefly the story, right, Laia, more or less?
Yes. Yeah. You didn't forget anything.
So thank you very much, Laia and Jordi. And I think it's really interesting how you are explaining how you took decision, and one time it was someone's opportunity, then it was the next one opportunity, and then later the other one opportunity. I think it's quite a great way of putting it. I like how both times where you were in recruiting process, you decided to be transparent about I don't want to call it your condition because I don't think being pregnant is a condition, but still, I think it's quite a courageous choice to go and tell you are pregnant, because many companies would stop the recruiting process. But also for you, Jordi, to tell them that you had a illness condition. And it's amazing that both time you were with companies that were good. And I think this creates a type of loyalty when companies do that. That is quite amazing. And we want to see more companies like that. So thank you very much. So now, Anne and Gwen, do you have an order of appearance? So because you saw Jordi and Laia took the floor here. I could not even intervene anymore.
Gwen will start, right? Gwen, go for it.
Okay, so we met with Anne, I guess, in the years end of the 90s at the university. I guess it was a little bit of a bumpy road at first. We were students, you know. So, and then, well, basically, we started our professional career in parallel, meaning actually in the same company, quite different business types. But she was working in Paris and I was working in Normandy, so not of friends. But we would still meet on weekends. So we had both a common life. I mean, the Ready Anchor Life, which was based in Paris. We were each other during the week, you know, work on our specific career. And then something happened. I was actually offered a very nice job in New Caledonia. So for those of you who don't know where Caledonia is you got Earth, you got France there, and you got New Caledonia there. And it's probably something like between 25 or 30 hours flight going over there. And I mean, I had been dreaming all my life to work abroad in some of those nice, you know, Pacific islands. So I actually went for it with a discussion with Anne at the time, and I remember it quite well. That, I mean, she was really tracking in her career. She was doing so great, and you know, she had perspective and so on. And she told me, look, go over there, and I'll try to come and see, you know, if I can have a career over there. And she did come. She did come twice. Spent a few weeks actually trying to find some job there, but some job that would correspond to her career expectations. Well, obviously in New Caledonia, you know, there are mining groups and there are mining groups. And if you can't work for them, well, you know, there's not a lot of things for a woman looking for a professional career, interesting one over there. Let's be honest. So she tried and tried and tried, and well, obviously there was nothing over there for her. So she came back, and at the same time, she had this wonderful opportunity to go expatriate in Brussels, Belgium, which she took. And I quite remember being there, you know, on the tarmac at the airport in New Caledonia, and seeing her flight going over, and thinking, look, in a way, personally speaking, this is a no way for me. I'm not going to stay here in New Caledonia alone because I loved her. And I decided, well, okay, I'm gonna go back. And I think that less than 1 month after that, I was back in Brussels looking for a new job. And where I want to insist is, you know, sometimes in your life, you make some decisions that actually opens opportunities. That for me, it actually opened a huge opportunity, which was actually started working for a major consulting company. Most of us know it, McKinsey. And it actually broadened my professional career by a few 100%. It was incredible. Maybe, Anne, you want to take the relay after this, but I just wanted to insist one thing. Sometimes, you know, you're on a path where you take a decision, which is a personal one, but does actually profit yourself, professionally speaking. And that's hugely important to keep those open. Anne?
Yes, so comparing actually to the story about Georgie and Laia, as you can hear, so at the beginning there was not really conscious communication, and we were going parallel into our career. And that's true that whenever we started to go, and I started to go and have this opportunity in Brussels, and there was this fabulous time, petroleum industry. Even you were going from Paris to Brussels, you had an expatriate life. So it was fabulous opportunity for me, and indeed I was really glad, and that was the starting point of a proper dual career, because Gwen came back and we started there. Bumps, ups and downs. That's true that I was going onto my career path. Gwen was also just very happy being in McKinsey. We really wanted to drive perspective, parallel careers. Didn't have kids, continued not to have kids. Then got an opportunity to be home-based in the south of France, where I'm originally from. And there was this time where Gwen stayed in Brussels. I was in the south of France, and he was driving 1,000 kilometers over the weekend just to come. So that was quite incredible. We also, and at that time, I wanted to get out of the petroleum industry. So a bit like Jordi, and I think, well, that was actually the same years, because I did my INSEAD MBA in Singapore. I decided to do it mainly in Asia. And I think, to be honest, I think Gwen would have told me no, I would still have gone. So quite similar, quite, Jordi said, well, maybe not.
I never said no, and I actually encouraged her to do this because I thought it was a wonderful opportunity first. I would have done it myself. So I guess we were actually pretty clear on that it was a superb opportunity, and was to grab it. Really, it was fine.
And the idea was, we found a way the previous 10 years, we'll find a way forward. So there was a bit, more maybe bumpy, but, and indeed, so this opened some wonderful doors. I could change business from the petroleum industry to the pharma industry, which was quite unusual. And I stayed there 10 years in this pharma industry. And actually just also this allowed me, when also, again, followed me in the south of France. We had a couple of fabulous years where indeed I was traveling every week outside somewhere in Europe, in the US, or in the Middle East. So I was really just in a plane all the time. But there was all the time coming back to this route in the south of France. And Gwen did actually find a job in Marseille. So everything was pretty fine. So stable. That's where we decided just to get our daughter. So I was pregnant in these times. And then 2015, I got this offer to go to China. This actually is when I met Magali back in Shanghai. And at this time, Gwen was also wondering about, his career, his next step, etc. And then here, we got, and I was the couple lead in a way, and he decided to follow. We didn't know if ever he would find a job, but that was definitely just the decision we took. Our daughter was 3 years old, so pretty flexible. So we didn't really just had any question about that. And we arrived in China. Fabulous years, not so easy also for Gwen to find a job. One of the things that really struck me is that at that time, I did realize that it was not a social norm to me as a woman to be the expatriate.
Right.
So wherever we lived, which was a condo with only expatriate couples. I was the only French woman being the expatriate. And thanks for the balloons, Magali. and
You
and
must have
actually
triggered
the
the
only
word that triggered the balloon. I didn't do
yeah,
anything.
maybe.
Something must read my mind.
So I was the only woman expatriate, and actually I was the only woman French, but not working for a French company. I was working for Johnson & Johnson at that time. So that's where really just also both of us, we realized that indeed we thought it was pretty normal to run careers like that, but it was still definitely not a social norm. And Gwen can maybe, you can tell about these stories, just about the guy tie and tie quickly, and then we can move on, right?
Yeah, I got quite a few anecdotes, to be honest. Okay, few of them. Coming in any kind of social occasions, as a couple, and being addressed as the, expatriate. And of course, the women would go with the other women to talk about whatever kids on education, on the, how to refurbish her expatriate home, and so on and so on. Some kind of happy housewife's life. And then those guys would discover, oh, you're the trading husband. And then, in their mind and in their eyes, there was some kind of a shift, really. I was not interesting anymore. I was kind of, some kind of the gray zone where you don't know exactly where this guy comes from, where is he? Is he here? Should I talk to him? And so on and so on. And only after a while, when they actually discovered that, yes, I had a professional career, even if I was the trading husband, then they felt allowed to speak to me. I mean, either in terms of professional topics or, even social. It was kind of interesting. And there were quite a few of us in that situation in Shanghai at that time. There was even a club that I joined, which is called the Gai Tai. So Gai is for, the male. And Tai is basically the female that stays at home in the Chinese couples. They're actually called Tai Tais. So it was kind of a, word game, Gai Tai, Tai Tai. But it was quite interesting because there were only a few of us. I think the club was probably something like between 50 to 100 persons, regular base, let's say 20 persons. And we shared kind of a lot of anecdotes like this where, you don't feel really rejected. I wouldn't say that. You just feel a little bit in the gray zone, a little bit apart, the career usual development. It's actually sometimes a little bit, difficult to deal with. But when you get to know the people, one thing that actually struck me was that most of the people over there were not that, were not that happy with their career life, with their personal life. And after a while, they would actually, admit that, well, maybe we as a couple made some right choice here and there. And of course, discussing with the trading women, it was really an order of difference. It's incredible. There was so much frustration from them, especially all of those who had, left behind their good jobs to follow on their husbands. And it was a little bit sad in a way. And so the idea was always to try to find something that would make their social life worthy, which was not that easy because it's not that much recognized. As for myself, for example, I went to the university, Donghua University, second best in China, to learn Chinese. Actually mounted my own freediving club in Shanghai, the first one, I believe, because I'm a freediving instructor. So you actually try to build both a social life, but to set up some assets that will be useful in your career life and that will be recognized in the social occasions. I guess not so easy, and this is where you really need, to work as a couple. and to make sure that everybody's expectation is actually filled, not only on the short term, but in terms of vision, in terms of the future, in terms of what you want to build and what we want to build in the year after. So in the year after China.
Thank you. You know, it's so for people who know me, I like Anne and I said at the start, I met them in China and we were talking about social norm and those bias, but it's quite amazing how, so myself, I was also the lead of the couple, the lead career of the couple, and my husband was working distance work because he didn't have a job in China. He actually had a job in Abu Dhabi, so he was rotating between China and Abu Dhabi. Anyway, but it's quite amazing. You go to an evening party as a couple, and people go straight to the man and ask him what he does, but don't even bother asking the woman. So it's really, Jordi, you did say at the start that you were a normal couple. We think it's a normal couple, but there's so many stereotype bias and so on that you have many people to remind you every day that it's not that normal, in fact, because you are not in the social norm. And maybe Jordi and Laia, continuing on what Gwen and Anne were describing as their challenges, can you tell us some of the challenges you've had and how you learn from them or what you did about it? Because, you know, could be maybe so useful, because when you started the description, when you both couples started describing what you've gone through, it looks like a dream things, right? Super communication, you guys decide together, you take the one that is the best, no matter if it's the best for the man or the woman, doesn't matter. Sounds absolutely amazing, right? But then you scratch the surface a bit and you listen to Anne and Gwen, and after all, maybe not always that good, not always that easy. So maybe Laia and Jordi, you want to share with us some of those challenges that you have encountered yourself in your wonderful life, outside, of course, the medical ones, which clearly we understand are super
You want to start,
challenges.
Laia? You want to start?
Well, first of all, I would say that as Magali was saying now, life is not so easy, obviously. So we explain it in a very heavy way, but of course we have gone through very difficult situations, and mainly the healthy ones in our case, but also very difficult moments as a couple, because what we have very clear is it's that from a professional point of view, we are not in competition. But in a way, although we are not in a competition, in a way, it's like the fact that men are not giving birth to babies, it's much easier for them to go and advance. And for women, once we are moms, we have to calm down and to slow down. And okay, it's not a competition, but in a way, we could say that we have to slow down and they don't have to. I would say that. And to me, as we were explaining, to me, one of my biggest challenges was to be recruited by a super masculine company, steel manufacturer, where it was plenty of engineers, but men engineers, not women engineers. So to arrive there and to be pregnant, it was super mega difficult. To me, it was very difficult. And while Jordi was looking for a job. So maybe Jordi, you can explain your biggest challenge.
Same story. I mean, and you touched down the point, Magali, in your introduction about the stereotypes also. So the fact of coming back with no job from Paris to Barcelona, okay, and the fact of having to spend your time looking for a job during 3 months under the, let's say, the salary or the income of your wife, etc. The stereotypes are there. My friends, even my family. But are you sure that your career was very good? Why do you? So it's something that you have to. You hear all those comments, and in the bar with your friends, when you go to a restaurant, it's something that comes to attention all the time. But at the end, you say, but look, but where's the problem, right? But this is something. Is a difficulty? No, it's not really a difficulty, but it's something that you have to live with. I mean, those type of comments. I was idiot things, but also when we were preparing this call, I was touching on the day before we met, Magali. We were in a restaurant, Laia and myself, and we ordered. What do you want for drink? We said a beer and a Coke. And obviously the waiter comes back and the beer is given to me and the Coke to Laia, and it was the contrary. I don't like beer, right? So those type of stereotypes, absurd stereotypes, are there. And is it a difficulty? Well, it's not a difficulty, but you have to live with that, and obviously, yeah.
And maybe I would add also a second challenge.
The move to Chicago, probably you're gonna say.
Yeah, what I'm
Are
gonna.
you trying to control what your wife is saying, Jody? Sorry.
No, but what I wanted to explain is that
It was a joke, Jody, obviously. Sorry, Laia. It was a joke. I don't want you to take it bad. That's it was funny. Go ahead, Laia. Sorry.
Another stereotype, maybe not a stereotype by itself, but it can also sound. I mean, if while we were studying industrial engineering, anyone would have told me that I would leave or stop my professional life to take care of my family, I would have asked, no, never. I will always continue with my professional life, so I will never stop. But you can never say never, because at that time, Jordi, he got a super good offer to go expat in Chicago, and I took the decision to stop and to do a family leave, say, and I was taking care of my daughters. I was taking care of my husband, something that I would have never imagined. I did it, and now I can say that those were the most wonderful years of our lives and of my life. The fact of stopping and not working and being a real mom was incredible. And since then, I have never had to regret again the fact of not being able to go to the school to take the kids. No, all these bad mental things that come to mom, they stopped because I was focused during 3 years to them.
Yeah, it's funny. When I was young, before meeting my husband, and I've been married with him 31 years now, but before meeting him, I always said, I will never let a man distract me from my career. I will never stop work for a man and ending up being financially dependable of somebody, so not being able to take my free choices, which was really my main thing, more than wanting to do a career. And when I met my husband, the company we were with at that time had never recruited women. I was one of the very first ones, so they didn't know how to handle couples. And the only way to handle us was to transfer me to the other end of the world. And I refused my transfer, and I got fired because at that time, we're talking 1992 here, was completely against the company policy. The company, if you look at my LinkedIn profile, you will find out what it is. It's Schlumberger. They've made huge progress since, but at that time, and I still remember, gosh, I always said I would never do that. And the first thing I did was to do that. But my kids are now 28 and 30, and they are wonderful girls, very good in their skin, very at ease. And one of them, a few years back, we were in London, and she was doing a master's at London, no, not London Business School, International College. Damn, I forgot the name. Anyway, so she was there, and I was there for work. We had breakfast together. I dropped her at school, and I sent a little message in the family WhatsApp saying, hey, I'm being a good mom today. I have taken my daughter to school like good moms do. And the oldest one sent a message saying, oh, mom, how did it feel? That's a first. So you can have really good, great family life without having ever taken your kids to school, and that's what happened to me. Matthew, I see you are raising your head. We are just about to move to the third party, so it's excellent timing. Go ahead.
Sorry, I wasn't really sure of the structure, whether it could just interject at any point.
You can just interject at any time.
Okay, well, great, thank you, and thank you for sharing. It's really interesting for me, anyway, listening and hearing the stories that and your experiences that you've been describing. Just to give a bit of context, so I'm a sort of academic activist. I'm Dr. Matt Jacobs. I'm a sociologist. My research is in race, gender, and class, and particularly around identity and exclusion and exclusion. So listening to all of this is really interesting, and the subject matter, that's why I'm here, is this idea of the new man, if you like, and what that looks like. And I run my own consultancy, and a lot of the work that I've been doing with the corporate sector has kind of picked up on some of the issues, so we say this, the challenges that you've been describing in your stories, whether that's about the demand of travel and the impact that has on family life, the ease it is for men to be able to do that over women when women are having children, or the expectation that women will have, and all these things are coming up, and it's clearly an ongoing issue. And so I guess my question here is, given your experiences and given the nature of the relationships that you've developed with each other, how does that translate then into leadership in the workplace to mitigate some of these challenges for others? Because we're talking about how we move forward. What are the changes that we make? Okay, so you've all four of you been talking about your relationships with each other as couples. How does that translate to leadership in the workplace, so that those same stereotypes that you've been touching on can begin to be broken down?
Excellent
Great question, and that's actually leading me to what I was going to. It was going to be our third part, but that's fantastic, Matthew, that you had that question. Was how do we move from those what I call toxic alpha management style to a much more diversity, inclusive leadership style? So, but that's fantastic you asked the question, because that's exactly what we really want to give those examples, that what works at home has to work at work and vice versa. So who wants to pick it out of the four? Who is the one who wants to pick the answer to that?
Yeah,
Anne, I think you're making a shy hand thing. So go ahead.
It's not shy. I can make a strong one. No, that's an excellent question, and I think I've been myself trying and change the norms within my teams and sometimes within my leadership as well. One of the reasons I just left the petroleum industry at some point is indeed because I couldn't fit, and I tried as much as I could, and for some reasons, sometimes you've got to accept that it's not going to work. So that's why I decided to change fields. I recall very well, I met someone at INSEAD who told me, if ever you want at least to be able to change things or to develop this inclusive leadership style, you've got to go to check a company who has at least 20% of women already in the board. And that's what I did by choosing Johnson & Johnson. That was really a choice from myself. Of course, there is always a win-win in interviews, etc. But after INSEAD, I really selected and picked companies where I went first and looked at their boards to look if ever there was already a sort of gender equality, a minimal one, right? Because I'm talking 20%, so not 50%. And indeed, there was enough willingness to already just drive inclusive leaderships. And there, what I think was important was there were some men leaders really driving some changes, saying, we're going to organize flexible day on the Friday. You don't have to show up into the office. And you know what? I'm never going to be in the office. So I recall very well, our EMEA president was doing that and was very vocal about that. He was always saying, if ever you want to walk the dog and think strategically, go and walk the dog. I'm doing that myself. So he was also showing the way. And I think that's very, very important. And I was also given the flexibility just to, with Johnson & Johnson, we were given the flexibility to work remotely already, way before COVID. So whenever I said when we were based in south of France, I was traveling 1 week out of 2, but I could find something stable at least 1 week out of 2. And accepting being in a company that was accepting this flexibility of work, which was giving me the the trust, that was trusting me, just being away, was very important. And not all companies are still doing that, to be honest. So I think it's a choice of a company and the culture. You can already just see that. Well, typically, as we are talking today, all of these companies, these big bosses saying we want more masculinity. Well, that's definitely not where I would go. But so I think there is just a need to show the way. I've been doing that with my teams. I've been just also in company where it was more open. And sometimes I can say that whenever I felt I couldn't do it, I needed to leave. So that was part also of the choices.
Maybe adding a little bit to what Anne is saying, I was thinking, taking notes. So probably in the companies like Johnson & Johnson, which are big corporations, who are very well established, and they have corporate departments caring about these subjects. That's very well established. But then the reality also, from apart from those companies, we have the mid-sized companies and the small companies, family-owned companies, etc., where all these subjects are on the hands of the owner, probably most of the times, right? And in those cases, the talking about the company, I think, is it's like an intellectia, no? It's like talking about something which is not existing. You have to talk about the person. That reality remains in the hands of that person. So when you, Laia, when you came back pregnant, happily pregnant, and we decided, or you decided, but we decided to say it in the process. If that company had said, wow, or had put a bad face or something, maybe probably that was not the company that was fitting you. I mean, sometimes if these things pop up, that's not your company, so don't take that opportunity. So that's part of the decision also, right? In a Johnson & Johnson or in those type of companies, it's a no-brainer. I mean, that those type of things are, of course, it's a brainer also, but those type of things are, there's a process somehow. But in the most part of the companies, mid-size and small companies, is a person you have in front of you, and if that person is acting in a way that is not the one they are expecting, so probably that company is not your company, the one that you want to work with. And obviously myself, when being a leader, let's say with my teams in several companies I work for, you have to demonstrate movement by walking. Just show. I mean, just do to the others what you would like to be done to you, right? That's the formula, I believe. I don't know. But it's probably common sense what I'm saying, but at the end, that's what it works.
I think the topic is extremely complex because you have, of course, looking at the numbers helps. I consider myself as a pioneer woman. I was really the first one in many things. Sorry about that. I was really the first one in many of my jobs, etc. What I realized after a while, though, is that I was being a man wearing a skirt. It's a super stereotype, what I just said. But I'm sure you guess what I'm trying to say. What I'm trying to say is because all my models were very masculine energy type of leadership, which was what it was 30 years ago. I was modeling to them, so I was having the same type of leadership. So yes, I was a woman, but at the end of the day, I was very well accepted by everybody because I was behaving like everyone else. So I was not questioning the norms. I was not questioning the social norms that we've talked about or the work norms. I think the woman who came after, or the realization of the pioneers, and it took actually a male HR big chief to tell me one day, you the pioneers actually are doing more bad than good. And I was like, what are you talking about? And one of the things was about, if I've done it, the others can do it, I fought my way through, they can fight their way through. And I completely shifted the way I was looking at things. And I think, and I write a blog now where I've written many articles on that topic, which is about fighting the bias at every single level of the company. So it's about individual choice at every single level. It's about the topic being taken seriously at the head. I remember when I was the country manager of Angola, we had an issue with a lady on a rig, and I had told the team if we ever have an issue, I want it to be reported to me directly. So to show that it's taken really very seriously, we're going to do something about it. The daily bias which we see everywhere, the daily sexism, cannot be tolerated at all, because you never know where it stops. So there's many things, but also the way the companies image that the company is sending when you recruit. If you make a recruiting campaign and you only see men, I'm talking for industrial type of jobs, and you only see men on the things, well, a bit like you're saying, and if there is no woman in the board, you start thinking, red flag here. And there's so many things that we can attach, but I think, and that's the reason why we have this call, and we call it the men of the 21st century, it is more than anything else showing that it is possible to make another way, to be a different type of leader than the old norm. Don't let the old norm come back, as some people are trying to do at the moment. And either you're a man or a woman, show that you can completely thrive and your company can thrive with a different style of leadership. Anyone else want to add something? You guys are leaving me cold here.
I mean, I can add a lot of my own thoughts, and I obviously don't want to dominate the space too much, but I think there's some really interesting stuff in here around those biases and those stereotypes and how they condition people's behavior. Right? You talked about the sort of masculine leadership approach, which is linked into how men are taught to be men, and that translates into very much so into the workspace as well, and certainly in terms of traditional forms of leadership. And so I think there's clearly a focus on addressing that. But I think one of the big issues that's at play in all of this is how we very much seem to, and have done for centuries, associate particular characteristics and behavioral traits to different genders, right? So we talk about men as being rational and unemotional and strong and brave, etc., etc. I mean, I know these are stereotypes, but that's the kind of masculinity discourse. And then women are supposed to be the opposite of that, when in fact we know this isn't true, right? So we know that women can be strong and rational. We know men can be irrational, and some of us can be emotionally intelligent too. So we need to kind of get away from those kind of gender-specific character traits. Otherwise, we're not going to be able to break down those barriers and say, well, look, we all lead with emotional intelligence, with empathy, with compassion, and it's okay for a man to do that just as much as it's okay for a woman to be rational and strong in some of her leadership work. So I think it's about how we break down that kind of categorization based on gender around what leadership is and isn't as well.
No, you're right. And that's the reason why we wanted to really bring it back to what it also means in your private life, to show that you can completely break the norms in your social, in your private life. And that brings you to make it acceptable to also break the norms in your professional life.
It's a tough fight, though, isn't it? Because those stereotypes and those discourses and those narratives that say this is how men are and this is how women are and this is what leadership is, are really strong. And they've been around for such a long time, and they're so deeply embedded, not just in individual subconsciousnesses, but in the organizational subconscious as well, in the organizational cultural subconscious, the norms and traditions and patterns of behavior and expectations, and they pervade everything in the organizational context. So it's a hard fight, and it takes more than one or two people. Obviously, there are those that are breaking ground, and
it's a bit more.
Yeah, but it takes a concerted effort from leadership down, really.
No, I just wanted to say, I think there has been just different phases. There's being indeed the woman pioneers who had to sort of fit in, and then the realization that actually woman leadership could be any kind of leadership. It's not to fit in, but it's just to be yourself. Now I think there is a need also for men to speak up even more. And I think we hear that, and to say, well, if ever I don't want to be an alpha man, that's still very okay. And I'm very glad about that. And in a way, I want to thank Gwen, because he's being like that and voicing it. But sometimes it's definitely not easy because it is not a social norm. And so, you know, I think there's been this phase where women raise their voices, but I think like the men of the 21st century need also now to raise voices whenever they need to be a bit different, right, compared to those stereotypes, because unfortunately they're still there and there's a fight to be done. But what's good
So
is that
I'm
it's
cautious.
possible.
Sorry, Anne. I'm cautious of time. So I would like whoever is ready starts first. But if you can, within 1 minute, that's 60 seconds.
Magali, Johannes, there is somebody who wanted to speak.
Ah, okay. I didn't say that person. Johannes, go ahead.
Yes, sorry.
Sorry, Johannes, before you start, the four speakers prepare a 60 seconds final statements of yours, because I will give you the words after before we finish. So it gives you a few minutes to prepare while we listen to Johannes. Go ahead, Johannes.
Right, so we probably don't have time. I was going to raise a question, but I'm sitting here listening to this discussion. I'm becoming conscious that maybe my perception of the world out there is not very accurate or objective. Maybe I'm feeling my own privilege in a way, and I don't want to suggest that throughout my career the gender stereotypes have been solved. They haven't, but I spent most of my career in the mining industry, and then also in a lobbying capacity in Brussels. And I feel like I've always been surrounded by very good, healthy, inclusive leadership. So I was interested to poll the group to understand, how unusual is that? Is it still less than 50% of corporations or organizations that manage to have, if not gender balanced, at least inclusive in terms of different personality types, consultative approaches, leading by letting others lead, that sort of approach? How unusual is that? But I see we don't have time.
Well, Johannes says we don't have time, so that's why I will answer myself. I think this is actually one of the reasons why I believe we are in a dangerous time, is because people who are already gone the right way, let's call it that way, which means inclusive leadership, etc., have the impression that it's all good. So no need for any more effort. And we all know that when we drop those topics, when we drop diversity, equity, inclusion topics, it's all, the backlash is immediate and enormous. And so if that call, open your eyes on that, this is actually great news. It's we're right to do it. But I think it's important to realize that we just can't drop the fight, because it's going to come back with a backlash, because the natural instinct of many people have the opportunity now to go back, and it's back to, all the bad feeling, all the bad things that many humans have in them, men and women, by the way, where if you can have strong authority and crush everyone else, it's give you some, I don't know, idea of power and success or whatever. This is what is scary at the moment, is with all the DEI being cancelled in many companies, as you have seen, it's really scary that backlash is coming. So we need people to understand that the fight is not finished, and they need to continue supporting, both on the women and men side, the inclusive leadership, which is not a given. Sorry, I will not let the other ones answer just because we are running out of time. I knew we would run out of time. We always run out of time. So instead of me making a conclusion, because I think I kind of made it a bit earlier, who wants to start? Who is ready for the 60 seconds? I see, Gwen, you're all moving. So I give you, go ahead, Gwen, for your 60 seconds takeaway or conclusion.
Okay. My conclusion would be, just sometimes, for the normal average person, I'd say, do not try to change the norm up front. Protect yourselves, protect your ideas, or protect your future by engaging as well, in some kind of accepted, recognized added value activities, and ensure impact by being proud of what you do, what you stand for, what you bring to your family, to the society as a whole, what you bring to yourself as a person, and again, what you stand for. I'd say, again, for the normal, average person, don't always try to be a world changer. Just be yourself, just be a role model, and stick, quietly, but decisively in what you believe. And you will find that people will actually respect you and your ideas because you stand for it, again, quietly, but decisively. And I guess maybe that would be a new norm, not for alpha male, but for alpha couples.
Thanks, Gwen.
Okay, maybe my side.
Go
Okay.
ahead, Jordi.
No, basically, I don't want to give any advice because I shouldn't be giving any advice if we are considered a normal couple, right? So the advice is only to reinforce what we've tried to explain, Laia and myself. I think it's important to have your values clear and to put them in order. What is first, what is second, what is third, etc., etc. And in our case, we decided more than 20 years ago that at the top of the pyramid, among other things, is our family, and just taking decisions together. So it is not an advice or a do this or do that, but it's what it worked for us, and it's the way we act. That's it.
Not taking decisions as individuals, but as a couple and as a family.
But because we put that value on top of the pyramid, probably, I don't know.
Laia, Anne, or Laia, was that your word, or you want to add something?
No, I'm not adding anything, just what Jordi said.
Anne?
So I'll try, to close. I think just if ever we want to define the men of the 21st century, and some of the men are here, if ever you want things to change, you need to change things. So you need to be vocal also about it. And it's not just a woman issue, inclusivity, it's just a human issue.
Thank you. So thank you, everybody. So what I really got out, I will do a really 2 minutes because we only have 2 or 3 minutes left, is that actually, even though we are defying the social norms, what we are talking about here is what normal couples should be, as you said, Jordi, and it's all about transparency, taking decision as a couple and what makes sense for the family. So to keep the right priorities, family versus work. I also heard that you need to be very careful which company you go for, companies that are happy to recruit you. So when you are pregnant, when you are ill, who has some diversity representation at all levels. I heard a lot about flexible work and leadership. And I would maybe finish by something that when I mentor younger ladies who are asking me what to do, what I always tell them is, the most important thing the most important decision you will have to take is to choose the right partner who will accompany you and will make sure. So if at the start of your relationship, that person is already questioning your career taste and so on, maybe there are some red flags that you might want to consider. So I will finish on that. I know we had one more question. I saw that was late, but I don't think we have time. So sorry about that, but I'm more than happy to take questions separately by writing and to send it to the panelists. I'm sure they will be very happy to answer them if you have any further question. So thank you, everybody. Anne, Laia, Jordi, Gwen, and everybody else for participating. And thank you, Christine, for hosting us.
No, thank you. Thank you very much. Bye.
Thank you very much.
Goodbye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Thanks.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye now.
Shrikant, you are staying. If you are staying, we can have that question in private now.
Sorry, can you hear me
Yeah,
now?
yeah, go ahead if you want to ask a question. I can try to answer it.
Yeah, thank you. I really appreciate it.